The sun dipped low over the Arizona desert, melting into streaks of crimson and gold that bled across the horizon. The wind blew hot and dry, whipping grit against the face of rancher Luke Callahan as he rode hard across the open plain. His horse, a chestnut stallion named Maverick, breathed heavy beneath him, hooves drumming a steady rhythm against the cracked earth. The day had been long, fences to mend, strays to catch, but something in the distance caught Luke's eye and made him pull up short. Smoke. A thin trail rose against the twilight sky, curling from the direction of Dry Creek Canyon. It wasn't ranch smoke or a campfire, it was too thick, too wild. Luke's brow furrowed. Out here, a blaze could mean anything. A lightning strike, a careless traveler, or worse, trouble. He tightened his grip on the reins and nudged Maverick forward, the horse breaking into a gallop. As he neared the ridge, a sharp, desperate voice cut through the wind. "Push harder, right there." Luke reined in, heart thumping. A woman's voice, strained and fierce, echoed again from below. He swung off his horse, boots crunching on gravel, and peered down the canyon slope. Below him, half shrouded in smoke, a wagon lay tilted on its side, one wheel buried deep in the muddy ground. A figure struggled beside it, a woman, sleeves rolled up, her dress torn and streaked with dirt. She was trying to right the wagon, her face streaked with soot and determination. Luke didn't think twice. He scrambled down the rocky path, sliding the last few feet and landing hard beside her. "Ma'am, you need help," he shouted over the crackling of nearby flames. She whipped around, startled, eyes blazing even through the grime. "Then stop talking and push," she snapped. He blinked at her tone, sharp as barbed wire, but grabbed the edge of the wagon all the same. The wheel was sunk halfway into the mud, the wooden spokes creaking under the weight. Smoke poured from the front tarp, where an overturned lantern had spilled its flame. "Ready," she yelled. "Go," he grunted, throwing his shoulder against the wagon. The wood groaned, mud sucking at his boots like quicksand. The air filled with smoke and the bitter tang of burning oil. Sweat ran down his temples, stinging his eyes. The woman braced beside him, arms trembling, hair sticking to her forehead. "Push harder, right there," she shouted again, voice cracking. Luke leaned in with every ounce of strength he had left. His muscles strained, the ground shifted beneath them, and with a sudden jerk, the wheel popped free from the mud. The wagon rolled upright with a crash. He stumbled backward, gasping for breath, then yanked his bandana up over his face and rushed to beat down the flames with his saddle blanket. The fire hissed and spit, but slowly died away. The desert fell eerily silent except for the sound of their ragged breathing and the soft whine of Maverick up on the ridge. The woman dropped to her knees, coughing hard. Luke knelt beside her, resting a hand lightly on her shoulder. "You all right?" She nodded weakly, then looked up at the scorched wagon. "If that fire spread to the back," she murmured, "I'd have lost everything I own." Luke followed her gaze. The canvas was blackened, the supplies inside barely spared. He could see the edge of a crate, some tools, and bundles of cloth. Whoever she wasn't just passing through, she was moving her life. "You picked a dangerous time to be out here alone," he said. "These trails aren't safe after dark." "I didn't have much choice," she replied, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Her voice carried the tired defiance of someone who'd fought too many battles already. "And I don't need saving, cowboy. I just needed another set of hands." Luke gave a half smile. "Fair enough. But you're welcome either way." For the first time, her hard expression softened. "Name's Clara," she said, still catching her breath. "Luke Callahan," he replied, tipping his hat slightly. "Callahan Ranch, about 12 miles west." "Appreciate the help, Mr. Callahan. I'll manage from here." He chuckled quietly. "I don't doubt it. But I'm not riding off until I know you're safe." Before she could argue, a faint sound reached them, the click of metal against stone. Luke stiffened. The desert had gone too still, the kind of silence that carried danger in it. He turned slowly, eyes scanning the rocks along the ridge. Then came the voice, low, rough, and close. "Don't move, cowboy." Luke froze. Out of the shadows, 3 figures emerged, rifles glinting in the dying light. Bandanas covered their faces, dust-stained coats hanging loose over their shoulders. The one in front, tall and lean, gave a mocking grin. Well, he drawled. "Looks like we just found ourselves a party." Clara's breath hitched beside him. Luke's hand twitched toward his holster, but he didn't draw. "Not yet." The sun had disappeared completely now, leaving only the fire's faint glow flickering across their faces. And in that dim light, Luke realized this night was far from over. Luke's pulse hammered in his ears as the three men stepped out of the canyon shadows, rifles leveled and faces masked by dust and bandanas. The leader stood a step ahead of the others, tall and wiry with a jagged scar running from his chin to his ear. His grin was cold and sharp as a knife's edge. The desert wind carried the smell of burnt canvas and gun oil, and the air between them felt thick enough to choke on. "Well, if it ain't Luke Callahan," the man said, his voice dragging like gravel. "Didn't expect to see the big rancher himself playin' hero." Luke's fingers hovered near his holster, but he didn't move. "Name sounds familiar," he said calmly, studying the man's stance. "Who's askin'?" "Colt Turner," the outlaw said, taking a slow step forward. "I used to work your land before you ran me off for talkin' what I'd earned." Luke's eyes narrowed. He remembered the name now, a drifter with a mean streak, fired for stealing cattle feed. "I remember," he said. "You earned a boot out the gate, that's all." Colt's grin widened, teeth glinting. "Reckon tonight I earned something more." He nodded toward Clara, who stood frozen beside the wagon. "That's a mighty fine wagon you got there, miss. Be ashamed to lose it after all that hard work." Clara's jaw tightened, her gaze darting to the wagon, then to Luke. "It's mine. You've got no claim to it." Colt laughed low and cruel. "Oh, I think I do. That crate in the back. You stole it from my camp 2 nights ago." Luke turned to her, confusion flickering across his face. "You did what?" Clara said nothing, her lips pressed tight. The silence between them stretched thin as wire. Colt's grin turned darker. "So that's how it is. You run off with my cargo, and now your new friend here's gonna pay for it." He raised his rifle slightly, eyes gleaming with amusement. "Hand it over, sweetheart, or I start puttin' holes in both of you." Luke's mind raced. The wagon, the crate, the way she'd fought so hard to save it, it all clicked into place. Whatever was inside meant more than gold. He could see it in her trembling hands and the desperate way she looked at the fire still smoldering nearby. He spoke low enough for only her to hear. "What's in that box?" Clara's voice was barely a whisper. "Something they can't have." That was enough. Luke shifted his weight just slightly, eyes scanning the scene. The mud under the wagon was slick, and the broken lantern lay on the ground beside it, still leaking kerosene. The wind had picked up again, fanning the embers near the wheel. An idea struck, crazy, maybe fatal, but it was all they had. He leaned closer to Clara, murmuring under his breath, "When I say now, push." "What?" she hissed, not understanding. "Trust me." Colt motioned to one of his men. "Go check the wagon." The outlaw stepped forward, rifle in one hand, his boots squelching in the mud. He reached for the back of the wagon, glancing once at Luke with a sneer. Luke waited, hand twitching near his gun. The fire cracked softly. The smell of smoke thickened. "Now!" Luke shouted. He kicked his heel hard into the lantern, sending it crashing into the spilled kerosene. Flames roared up in a sudden burst, lighting the night like a lightning strike. Clara shoved the wagon with all her strength, the loosened wheel giving way. It rolled backward, slamming into the approaching outlaw and knocking him straight into the flames. Gunfire exploded. Luke dove to the ground, rolling behind a rock as bullets ripped through the smoke. He fired twice. One shot struck a rifle clean out of another man's hand, the other found the dirt near Colt's boots. Colt cursed and ducked behind a boulder, shouting orders that were drowned out by the roar of fire and Maverick's panicked whinny above the ridge. Clara grabbed a smoldering board from the ground and swung it at the third outlaw as he lunged forward. The board struck his shoulder, sending him reeling. Luke rose from cover, aimed, and fired again, this time hitting the man's arm. He dropped his weapon with a cry and stumbled away into the dark. Colt fired one last wild shot that sparked off the rocks near Luke's head. Then he spat into the dust, snarling. "You made a big mistake, Callahan. This ain't over." He turned and vanished into the canyon shadows, the echo of his boots fading into the night. Silence returned, broken only by the crackle of dying flames. Luke stood slowly, smoke curling around him, chest heaving from the fight. He looked around until his eyes found Clara kneeling beside the wagon. She was shaking, soot streaked across her face, but alive. "You okay?" he asked, lowering his gun. She nodded, wiping her eyes. "You didn't have to do that." He gave a faint, tired smile. Didn't seem right letting a lady face the devil alone. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Clara turned toward the back of the wagon, hesitating before unlatching the scorched door. She pulled back the burlap covering the crate, and Luke stepped closer to see what had been worth all this trouble. Inside, wrapped in cloth, was a small, crying baby, barely a few months old, its tiny fists waving in the smoky air. Luke froze, his heart lurching. You risked your life, for a child. Tears welled in Clara's eyes as she gathered the baby into her arms. He's my son. They wanted to sell him. I ran the night they tried. Luke stared at her, speechless. He'd seen greed, blood, and betrayal out here in the West, but never something like this. Something pure, desperate, and brave all at once. He holstered his revolver and looked toward the horizon, where dawn's first light brushed the canyon walls. "Ma'am," he said softly, "you just bought yourself a ride out of hell." Clara met his eyes, clutching her child close. "Then I'll hold you to that, Mr. Callahan." As the fire smoldered out and the desert wind carried the smoke away, Luke helped her onto Maverick's saddle. They rode off together into the pale light of morning, two souls bound by danger, loss, and something stronger than fear.